Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
And when I was young, and the guys that trained me, their excuse for nobody should have any rights is you give ignorant people, unless you teach them how to make food, they starve the next time you see them. So we're not going to give them rights because they don't know how to use the rights. And at that time, when I started 50, 60 years ago, nobody wanted to take the time to teach anybody, how to do the right thing. And so it was easier not to give them any rights. But I still believe that. I see educated people like yourselves. You have too many rights. You have too many choices. And rights is not the popular word anymore. In the 60s, during the civil rights, it was popular. But now it's choices. And now kids have, as I pointed out a couple of days ago, the information you get is virtually instantaneous. And there's too much information. You have information overload, and it's tough to make the right decision. So in your case, some of you have made no decision. And so but making no decision is a decision. It is a decision. Anything else about Mr. Carnegie? Yeah.
He basically fucked over his right-hand man, Frick, who was doing his dirty work, and then that guy fought back and won the lawsuit.
Well, he fucked over everybody he could. And he was from about 40 miles from here, down Furman. And and in his particular case, instead of his father, he wanted to impress his mother, who is, I think, the definition of toxic. She wasn't the first toxic mom, but maybe of Scotland, she was the first toxic mom. And with all the good, and down where he comes from, not every street, but schools and libraries and streets all named after him. Yet he never got any award from the Queen. At the beginning of his career, it would have been Queen Victoria. The QLA seminar is not just a seminar. It is a blueprint for creating generational wealth as fast as humanly possible. I teach you how to turn nothing into millions, billions, and even trillions. If you want to take control of your life, to create a legacy that lasts for generations, the time is now. Do not wait for the right moment. The right moment is this moment. Be bold, be selfish, be ruthless, and take no prisoners. I will still do seminars, but I won't be able to do this forever. Act now or not at your own peril. Thank you very much. People that have accomplished a lot less than him have gotten awards from the government and the royal family, etc. He got nothing. And everybody knew he was toxic. He created a lot of jobs. And back in the day, the creation of work was perhaps the highest thing you could do as a ruler or an employer. It's not much different now. And they talk about, Amazon and Walmart family. They've created all these jobs, which is great. And from that period of time, as I mentioned last night before we closed, the unions that had a place in the work society to get fair wages and stuff like that. And now the union size of unions has diminished 70-80% because the world is arguably more civilized. I don't think it's more civilized, but that's one man's opinion. But this model is his model. His model. And with a little bit of refinement. And as I said, I believe, the day before yesterday, we have crowdfunding, and now we got Bitfuck, and a few derivatives of Bitfuck. But it's about the same now. And so the tools that we have available, we've got 40 or 42 or 44 tools in the toolbox, financial toolbox. And we use basically one of them. Only one. And when I was telling you, you don't have to know anything. You don't. And I pointed out yesterday, it comes through in a classic manner when you're asking the Nazi, and he thinks about it, I don't know. And he thinks about another question, I don't know. He knew about ordering the rolls, though. He knew that, didn't he? And a good many of the boys and girls up there, and the ones that I'm not allowed to show their face, don't know a fucking thing about nothing. Zippo. And after they've made 25, 30, 35 acquisitions, they know a little. And in most cases, they know they've been lucky as shit that they were able to get that far and make that much money not knowing anything. And the new group, crop, for about the last generation, maybe which is 20 years, you want to know everything. So we've gone to know next to nothing to wanting to know everything. And you make less money. The boards are supposed to be the ones, the dream team are supposed to be the ones that know close to everything. And they still don't. And the excuse they'll use, which I've already alluded to, I haven't been in the saddle or in the workplace for 15, 20 years, and things change. And that's especially applicable in taxes. Because the tax machine has changed over the last 15, 20 years. In some ways better, in some ways worse. But at the end of the day, you're not affected. And as I told you already, Munger Hutton told me, when I first started to make serious money, if you're worried about paying taxes, Danny, you're not making enough money. I didn't really understand the simplicity of that when the words came out of his chubby cheeks, but he was right. He was right. I know that's a far distance from you, but most of you in this room already know more than enough to create generational wealth fairly easily. If you follow the steps, any additional information that you're going to garner or gain is ancillary. Maybe it's like frosting on the cake or a cherry on top of the cake, but you certainly don't need it. You certainly don't need it. And depending on how you look at fear, it's underwhelming. Although overwhelming to you, many of you, underwhelming to somebody like me, or some of the big hitters that we've alluded to. But I can assure you, Carnegie never thought about it. Jobs never thought about it. Gates and all these other guys never thought about it. It's not part of their vocabulary. It's not part of the equation. And I said many years ago, which is I still stand by, to get significantly rich, all you need is 25 or 30 phrases, the nomenclature. You don't have to necessarily, well, in fact, the more you know behind the nomenclature, the less you'll pull the trigger. But if you just know the words, and that's certainly, and I tell the story, which is a true story. I'm making a speech in front of the API, American Petroleum Institute in Houston, Texas. And our chief engineer, Jimmy Ford, the plane was late anyway. And so I said, well, and there's 400 or 500 people in the audience, they're all screaming and yelling. Who's up next? And so I said, well, fuck, I'll give the presentation. In those days, flip charts, no PowerPoint. So I get up there, I'm about 40, 45 minutes into the talk, and at the back of the room, I see Jimmy. He got there, and he knows I don't know anything. And so we were talking about deep sour gas exploration, 25,000-foot holes, and he's going like this. And he was trying to tell me, I thought at that time, gas and oil came up separate holes. I didn't know it came up one hole, and then there was a separator at the top. Anyway, so he's back there going, and I'm going, yeah, I can handle it, I can handle it. So I got through it, and Q&A was normally all the geophysicists and engineers, all these guys wanted to ask me questions. And Jimmy says, we're late already. I'm sorry. He would answer the question, but we're late. And so he hustles me out. And then we saw that the charts were upside down. So I'd given a 45-minute presentation to some really smart guys with the charts upside down. And from that moment forward, I'd already said, and they were just coming out with Landsat, where you discovered oil from satellites, that it was a load of shit. And after I made that talk, and of course, nobody could keep it a secret, it was in the newspapers, I knew these guys didn't know shit. And it was just, but the charts were upside down. And they wanted to take those charts to the Smithsonian Institute. And I wouldn't allow that. I said, no, I'm not going to. Even though I can engage in self-deprecation, I didn't want people looking at that 150 years from now. And some moron named Peña gave a big speech. Now, I didn't know they were upside down. Did not. Of course, the story was I did, and I was trying to make fun of the oil and gas business because I used to make fun of them. I mean, no place else can you make this much money and be this stupid, which is what I used to say. I still stand on that. And I've said before, when they appointed the new CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, who was an explorationist from Canada, he's a gunslinger. I mean, that says a lot. But when you have a 1 in 22 shot, for every, you drill 21 dry holes for every exploratory well that you make. I mean, complete. It's the last place. And a lot of these people are still buying oil from people they shouldn't, because I mean, pretty soon, oil is going to be secondary market in water. It's going to be water, which J. Paul Getty discovered oil in Saudi Arabia looking for water, which is another story. But you don't need to know anymore. The most important thing in your life is to find your chairman, or chairperson, as they're called now, and that he protects you. Just like your mother overprotected you, you want your chairman to overprotect you, because it's going to be a rough road. It'll be a rough road. And the more successful you are, the rougher the road, because now your assets are worth something. Right now, it's just flapping your lips and hot air is coming out. And so when it starts to take on a form, and those assets are worth something, I mean, then people will put you in their crosshairs, and they normally look for the youngest, least experienced person out there that has the most money. When Ross Perot passed away and his kid, Ross Jr., this is a slight exaggeration, they used to lay in the weeds waiting for him to come into a deal, because he'd get in the deal based on his dad's name, who was a tremendous entrepreneur, a tremendous guy, who I had the privilege to know him. But his son was, and Ross Jr. is still around. They tell me Ross Jr. is got more savvy now, and he's surrounded himself. Oprah Winfrey, if you were black 20, 25 years ago, there was only 2 people you had to talk to get a deal funded. 100%. Oprah and Cosby. If you couldn't get your deal and you were black, it's because you couldn't get a meeting with them, but absolutely they got funded. But then Oprah, of course, got a terrible investment streak. I mean, things that she put money into that were bad. And then she put money into them again, and they were bad. And then she put money into them again. She believed in double, triple downs, And then, of course, Cosby, because he's out of jail now because he got off on a technicality the last time I read anything. But those 2 individuals would fund almost anything that was black. And 20, 25 years ago, there were other people that would fund things based on ethnicity. Didn't matter what the fucking deal looked like. I've never been one of those people. And there's a few of them around. But, okay, YouTube. Thank you.